Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on Episode 9 of The Familiar of Zero, Night of the Twin Moons. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, a bunch of ruffians known for, enjoying atrocities have waylaid the Tristan Academy of Magic and is holding most of the remaining student body hostage. Only Saito, Louise, and a select few others are really able and willing to fight back, and it sort of remains to be seen what precisely their big master plan is. But the big important thing here is that Agnes has sort of found who is responsible for burning her village, you know. She's found the vice captain, but it turns out she and the vice captain are both sort of seeking the same guy, because, you know, that guy was in charge of burning down the village, but he also burned this guy too, hence the nasty scars on his face. So, you know, in a weird sort of way, they might bury the hatchet temporarily. Now, normally during the opening theme, I would sit quietly with reverence, but today I am obligated to my sponsor. Today's sponsor is none other than myself. You may not know this, but I write light novels, and I've written quite a few. Today, I'm going to tell you about the eccentric detective Yamamoto, in which the intrepid, if drunken detective solves a wide variety of cases with the help of her assistant Satoshi. Ranging from finding missing pets and surveilling cheating spouses to catching a high-end cat burglar and preventing the murder of a local business magnate, no case is too big or too small for Detective Yamamoto. Even when she's forced to work with, and occasionally against, the police, and even when she must contend with her fear of the supernatural, nothing will prevent the eccentric detective from doing what needs to be done to solve the case. If this sounds like something you'd like to read, then by all means, consider purchasing books in the Eccentric Detective Yamamoto series by me, Frederick Fitzgerald, through Amazon. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the episode. So I feel like the title's really, just kind of making it clear what precisely is about to happen here. You know, at this point, I don't think it's, too surprising that, you know, maybe the guy who, helped Agnes and is sort of warning everyone else against violence and is capable of using fire magic, you know, maybe that guy could be involved in some way. And with the title of this episode, like, The Flames of Atonement, you know, I think it's safe to say what's likely going to happen. I mean, especially because in the previous episode, I believe, people were pretty harsh on Colbert, calling him a coward and stuff like that, saying they have no use for cowards and things like that. So the fact that he's being so assertive now and saying, like, look, I'll take care of this, Saito, you help me out here. Like, it really does seem like he's going to do something drastic and probably to great effect. Now, I guess it is interesting because this guy here, he's describing, you know, his captain as being an emotionless man. You know, someone who essentially had no flicker of doubt when it came to burning down a village. I mean, this seems to be in contrast to what we know, but I guess we'll find out. It is also telling that Colbert, if it truly was him, didn't just, like, burn this guy for no reason. You know, he did it effectively in self-defense. But, that said, there is something to it, to have witnessed how easily that fire spell was overpowered. I mean, I guess that really indicates to me that even, you know, way back when, Colbert was powerful. And that's something about wizards, you know, generally speaking. Well, I guess maybe this is more my opinion, but I've always been of the belief that generally speaking, the elder wizards are more powerful than younger wizards, so, really, if anything, Colbert has only progressed in his studies and become more powerful with time. Sure, he might not be as apparently bloodthirsty as he might once have been, but there's no reason to believe he isn't at least as strong. Now, it is nice that seemingly calmer heads are prevailing here. Understandably, Kirsch wanted to do something rather than sitting around waiting, but fortunately, everyone just sort of talked her out of it, saying, like, look, we need to follow along with the plan here. If we act willy-nilly, then things will get bad. And, that is a distinct possibility. So, unfortunately, the usurpers here, they're no longer willing to reminisce about the past. They want to start negotiating. And I guess it does make sense that this whole thing was a gambit. They want to negotiate with Henrietta to withdraw troops and surrender unconditionally and all that. And I get why they would do that, but at the same time, they're also sort of banking on the idea that Henrietta would be swayed by such a thing. Of course, they are likely right, but at the same time, I don't know, that's not necessarily a gamble I would take, So I guess speaking of gambles, Saito and Colbert, they're finally making their move. And, I guess understandably, oh. Never mind, I thought they went along ahead. I was gonna say, it makes sense why Kirsch is, slightly unhappy having been left behind, but I guess that's no longer the case. And I guess Colbert's willing to sort of use all their skills to effect his plan. So Giulio has decided to speak out a bit. I'm not sure whether or not this is advisable talking to your captor like that, but he is sort of telling him that, like, look, this will backfire. You will ultimately corner yourself and be the recipient of a full frontal attack, so, tread carefully. And I get why you might say such a thing to sort of unnerve your assailants, but it isn't necessarily the truth, and, it's much better to have the truth on your side in this sort of thing. So it seems that Colbert's plan here was to use all these paper lanterns as a distraction. I mean, I seem to recall he's filling them up with powder, so, yeah, I guess it's probably like a... maybe not a fluorescent, but like something that gives off light when ignited. Something like magnesium or a similar compound. I mean, for what it's worth, it does seem to be working. Between that blinding everyone and Kirsch and Tabitha using their respective magics to hold everyone at bay. I mean, that's all well and good, but unfortunately they are sort of deviating from the plan. They're engaging the enemy rather than just, maintaining the distraction and disruption. Which, when you get down to it, that's probably not good. Tabitha and Kirsch, skilled though they might be, they are, after all, only students, and they are contending with, professional killers, really. And, I mean, just when you put it like that, like, the captain himself has no compunction about burning people to death, so, if you are gonna fight him, you might as well, like, shoot to kill. Like, Colbert probably won't smile on that too much, but, if the alternative is leaving him alive to burn people to death, then, maybe better to put him out of his misery. And I guess, my line of thinking has lent a little bit more credence because this guy here, like, he doesn't have any real eyes left. They were all burned out, so blinding him doesn't really work. If they'd moved to decapitate the snake, as it were, then, that might have worked out better in the long run. Of course, things remain to be seen. He's clearly intent on toying with his prey, as it were, not having too much fun right away. And in a sense, it's fortunate, It gives someone well-meaning the opportunity to intervene. And fortunately, it seems like Colbert's the man the former vice captain thinks he is. He was capable of deflecting that blast of fire with his own, and it's certainly displayed to be a big, important, impressive thing. So I guess the question is, now that Colbert has revealed himself, what's he gonna do, right? Like, he's talked about how killing's bad and you shouldn't do it, but if it really comes down to it, if it's killing what is essentially a rabid animal like this, then, I don't know, man. I don't think anyone could really blame you. And sure, you could blame yourself, but, I don't think it's necessarily warranted. Now, the real wild card here is Agnes, because she is now privy to Colbert's true identity, but what's she gonna do about it, Will pragmatism win out here? Because pragmatically speaking, she should want to get rid of the interlopers before settling things with Colbert herself. Save the students and all that. But, she does have a hot-headed streak, so I wouldn't be surprised if she intervened to the detriment of everyone involved. I mean, it certainly seems to be the case with the former vice captain invoking the burning of the village again. If she was sort of not in the right frame of mind to begin with, she's certainly not going to be in one anymore. So this is a nice little bit of confirmation. The vice captain himself says Colbert's just as skilled as he was back then, so, I guess in a sense it is like riding a bicycle. You never truly forget. Now, fortunately, Colbert, he's not exactly stalling for time here, but he's saying, like, look, while I handle this, Louise, Saito, you get everyone out of here. Oh, wow. Okay, this is something curious I don't remember at all. For Louise to have successfully performed a feat of magic by essentially untying everyone's wrists. I mean, surely it wasn't void magic. This adds an interesting new wrinkle. I had always assumed that Louise was so poor at all other magic because she was capable of void magic, but it seems like she can do other magic on occasion, if only for comedic effect, so perhaps she is really just truly unskilled. Now, I guess back to more important matters, Agnes has decided against pragmatism. She's decided that, even if it means stepping in between two mages wielding fire, she's gonna try and take a shot at Colbert, come hell or high water. And, the former is far more likely, if I'm being honest, because, they're throwing around these massive fireballs, and the vice captain has no compunction about killing an innocent here, so something tells me, someone's gonna get a little crispy. I mean, even as Colbert sort of deflects a blast meant to incinerate her, she can't help but swing her sword at him, which is distinctly ungrateful, because, we're led to believe that Colbert saved her from the burning village. We saw him save her again, and, now for a third time, he was subsumed by fire to protect her, blocking her with his body. I mean, one should hope at this point that she thinks better of cutting down a burned man, because, I mean, really, when you get down to it, despite the whole village burning business, which I assume has more to it than what we've been led to believe, Colbert doesn't seem like the person who would really enjoy burning down a village, And I guess the thing is, why is Agnes taking the word of the vice captain who's clearly shown himself to be wholly malicious? I mean, I'm sure if she did ask Colbert, he wouldn't deny it per se, but, I don't know. I guess Agnes is really just, sort of caught up in the emotion of everything. And I guess to really drive a point home here, she is now confirming it for herself that Colbert is the one who pulled her out of the flames and saved her. So, yeah, this guy was involved in burning down the village, but he's saved her 3 times. So, I don't know. I should hope Agnes sort of comes to her senses and at the very least strikes down the vice captain or something, because Colbert seems no longer able to. Well, I say that, but maybe he had just enough left for one blast. Just enough to incinerate this guy. Well, I take it back again, It seems like, things are well and truly dire, so, if Agnes If Agnes sees fit to intervene and start chopping someone with a sword, now might be the time. Yeah, the situation is dire indeed if the former vice captain is now strong enough to stand up to Colbert and able to sort of ward off some of his magic. I mean, I guess, maybe to his detriment Colbert was holding back. I mean, I get why he would do such a thing, but, considering he got scoured by flames, maybe it would have been better just to, flash this guy into vapor from the start. I mean, it's not sporting, and it's not very elegant, and the students probably wouldn't thank you for it, but, it probably would be the right thing, ultimately. Alright, so here we go. Agnes has finally, regained her sense of judgment here. Like, this guy's gearing up for a gigantic fireball that'll surely incinerate everything, and she decides, alright, now is a good time to run him through. And good on her, really. The question now is what she does about Colbert, because, she has incontrovertible evidence that he's saved her 3 times, even if he was involved in some bad stuff, so, what now? I mean, Colbert, even now, he's only exclaiming relief at the fact that she's unharmed, And he's even going as far as to explain himself that, he sort of came to his senses, it was a mistake, he shouldn't have done it, and saving her was the least he could do, and, well, really the most he could do, given everything that had already transpired. So I guess the question is, how's everyone going to talk Agnes down, Louise, Saito, and Kirsch are sort of shielding Colbert, but, I don't know. I feel like no one's really willing to fight her over this. At least not in the way that she's willing to. But, surely she can't just run Colbert through after he's saved everyone, right? It's, well, it's just not right, I can get it if he wants to submit himself to justice later, even if that's not necessarily warranted, but, to kill the guy who just came in and saved the day, it certainly rankles. So, when you get down to it, it seems like everything was something of a misunderstanding. They were burning the village to prevent the spread of disease, but, it turns out once they started lighting the fires, it seemed like there weren't many signs of disease there at all. So, realizing that there was a mistake, Colbert sprang into action, running into the flames to save a child. The story we would always been presented with was that this was a wholly malicious thing, the burning of the village, and indeed that is kinda true, it's certainly not a good action, but, people were deceived into doing this. It's not like they all got together and said, hey guys, let's go burn down a village. Some of them were certainly more amenable to that than others were, but Colbert certainly wasn't one of them. Now, perhaps unfortunately, Colbert is still clinging to his opinion that killing is wrong in all circumstances, while also simultaneously saying, look, kill me, and then, kill no more. I kind of disagree on both counts, Killing him would be wrong, but abstaining entirely from killing is also kind of wrong, too. I guess the question is, can she truly bring herself to do it? Because she is hesitating. Oh. Given the way Louise is reacting, speaking softly now rather than yelling, it seems as though Agnes has missed her opportunity. And I admit I'm a little surprised because I guess I just don't recall Colbert dying. Deeply unfortunate, very sad, but perhaps a fitting end for the man. So I guess the question is, where does everyone go from here? Colbert will surely need a proper burial, And Agnes, I mean, her life's mission essentially is over. She has gotten revenge, mostly, so, it really did seem to be a driving force between everything in her life, so without that, what is there left? There is still duty, but is that enough? I can definitely understand in a sort of roundabout way where, you complete a big goal you had looming over your head for however long, once it's done, what next, So, I do find it interesting that Colbert had sort of, confessed all of this prior. He wrote, a letter to Saito. It is interesting that Saito was the intended recipient, perhaps because Saito more than anyone else is a warrior, so he would perhaps understand. Okay, well, alright, there we go. I was thinking, this is by and large a good letter. Don't get used to fighting, don't get used to seeing people die, don't get used to killing. That's all good stuff, but it's not like this is a war of choice. War has descended upon Tristane, so, if you want to survive, you're gonna have to fight, and unfortunately, it may come down to Saito or someone else, and, you can't really blame Saito for deciding that he should live rather than someone else, if it comes down to it. I guess the question is, how much killing will Saito ultimately have to get up to, Because I feel like it's going to be more than 0. Ah, dear. So, understandably, things are tense. And I guess against all odds, Louise might have done the right thing, She's not known for being especially tender, but I guess circumstances were such that she couldn't do anything else. Good on her. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.